Hello, everybody. Hello. I'm Charlie Tolhurst, and this is the Tonight Show podcast for today, the 1st of June. Yes, we're into a new month. Already June 2023. Summer's here. Well, unless you're what I'm wearing, but they're certainly interesting. Their summer is coming very, very soon. Certainly some cool evenings, but some warm days. That's the situation across much of Europe right now. I'm sure you've all been enjoying your lovely weather over there. I'm joined by Labour Party supporter and my co-host, Zach James, always to round up all the latest news. Hello, Zach.
Hi, Charlie. Hello, mate.
Well, it's been an interesting last few days, hasn't it? Here, because we're going to start off with the latest news from the United Kingdom now, and the government have had a bit of a last. In fact, both parties have had quite a tumultuous few days, should I say? Obviously, we've just learned today a Labour MP has been suspended over a sexual harassment claim, or the Labour MP. We know, of course, if you don't know the Labour MP I'm talking about, that is Geraint Davies. That was allegations of sexual misconduct. That was a complaint that was launched. It's now been revealed that the former Prime Minister Boris Johnson apparently has been caught yet more leaked WhatsApp messages are being released. So the COVID inquiry is still going on at the moment. We need to hear what's happened for all of us that have suffered out there as well. And there's been full of activity off the scenes with Rishi Sunak as well. Is that what do you make to the last couple of days for both parties, the Conservatives and Labour, on this?
Yeah, there's certainly been a few things going on. I'm going to mention first of all the Labour story because, as you mentioned as well, involving Geraint Davies. That's the MP for Swansea West. There's been some very serious allegations that have come out via Politico Playbook today. I should mention. He's been accused in multiple incidents of inappropriate behaviour towards junior female colleagues as well. 5 women have come forward with complaints. This evening, 6 women have come forward with a formal complaint. The 5 women before that didn't drop didn't put in formal complaints, but had made some allegations about Geraint Davies, subjected them to unwanted sexual attention, both physical and verbal, after coming into contact through the MP as well. With allegations on incidents taking place on the estate, in bars or late night votes. One woman he allegedly touched at the time was apparently 19 years old when the incident happened. Now, Geraint Davies, in his defence, said that he did not recognise some of the allegations, and if he inadvertently caused offence to anybody, then he was sorry. Now, today has been suspended from the Labour Party, pending an investigation. There has now been a formal complaint being put in, as I said, as well. But yeah, it's another problem where Pest Minister comes back to haunt some MPs, and Geraint Davies seems to be the next one, unfortunately being a Labour MP in this instance as well. And yeah, Geraint Davies appears to have a troubled relationship. Excess drinking, sexual comments, unwanted touching, stretching back to 5 years, also all that younger woman in the workplace. And it's just a shame to see the amount of misogyny that MPs seem to put towards their junior members of staff, especially female colleagues. Is pretty vulgar and disgraceful. This is not an old boys club parliament. This is a diverse set of staff working for MPs behind the scenes, and sort of helping them with their case studies, constituency work, and all that sort of thing as well. And they should be appreciated and not treated to such misogynistic and old school behaviour of the 2023. It's disgraceful, quite frankly, that this sort of behaviour has been allowed rampant in Parliament in many ways. The Labour Party has allegedly had this news. The Whips, apparently, according to Sky reporting, knew about this a month. So if the Whips knew about it, then why didn't they take action? An example, they're criticising my own party for some of the stuff they potentially could have done. But yeah, Geraint Davies turns out to be a bit of a perv, quite frankly, by the sounds of it. Now, the I should point out that's allegations. Obviously, he responded on the record saying that he didn't recognise any of these events. And obviously, there is now a formal investigation going on. So actually, he's innocent until proven found guilty of something. But as a result, obviously, if you're suspended for the whip, there's obviously an allegation that's been put forward as well, and that allegation should go through its process. Now, I also want to talk about the story of today, and quite frankly, the last week or so, as you probably been aware, Charlie, as well. The cabinet office, and obviously Boris Johnson, there's been this COVID inquiry. It's going to take place. It's going to take place in the next couple of years, actually. Public hearings and evidence gathering is going to start beginning in the next few weeks as well. Now, Boris Johnson yesterday had the COVID inquiry. Let's start with the inquiry itself. Actually, the inquiry team sent out a demand for the government and the cabinet office to hand over thousands and hundreds of documents of information regarding its COVID response. Now, the government has resisted. Boris Johnson handed over his WhatsApps to the Cabinet Office yesterday and openly said that he would not mind supporting the documents being sent to the inquiry. The Cabinet Office has reached a different conclusion and today have sued the inquiry and asked for a judicial review after the 4 p.m. deadline today. Now, this is significant because technically it's the government suing its own inquiry that they created, which sounds like a complete and utter togwashy mess. But this is the situation that we end ourselves in, where the government have decided that they feel like some of the evidence they say they're bringing forward is totally irrelevant and has no use to inquiry, but it's been asked for it, and therefore it could potentially damage their brand and their processes and private, like to expose private, not private things happening going on beyond government. But quite frankly, I think it's pathetic. This is an inquiry with legal powers to request information, request document. It's a bit like what you have in America, where you're empowered to bring like they got a subpoena power in Congress, where you are required, compelled to bring documents, give evidence, and witness it, and become a witness and all that sort of thing as well in front of a committee. Okay, this is like the COVID inquiry is basically kind of like that, but with obviously a few differences as well. But this is more of like a public inquiry rather than just like a congressional, like legislative subpoena and all that sort of thing as well. But nevertheless, I find it so surprising and quite frankly shocking that the Cabinet Office is refusing to even bother. Now, the question is, given the fact that Johnson hadn't sent over his WhatsApp, why can't he do it directly? Well, apparently he has to go through all the Cabinet Office first, where all his legal lawyers and everything used to be, and so on. But another interesting twist I've seen tonight as well is that the Boris Johnson's WhatsApp messages only go up to as far as May 2021. Now, the Cabinet Office want all the information as well, and the inquiry, I should say, want all this information as well during the actual time where COVID decisions were being decided, all the court decisions and all that sort of thing as well. It's quite coincidence that the only messages Johnson has before switching to a new phone in May 2021 was when the COVID inquiry was set up. Now, it makes you wonder, what is all the other stuff that Boris Johnson has is on his old phone. Yet, apparently, according to spokespeople, they can't use it because it's got national security compromises on it. Okay, right. So it makes you wonder. Both sides are hiding something. The Cabinet Office, why are they just not simply turning over all the documents and evidence or the WhatsApps given by Boris Johnson's team to the Cabinet, to the COVID inquiry? And where is Boris Johnson's main WhatsApp message in the decision making on his own phone? Well, some say they can't use it. I suspect there's a lot of porkies coming out from both sides here on this. I mean, dearie me. I think it's a shambles from everybody, and the inquiry is the one that's losing out as well. And I think at the end of the day, I'm not a lawyer, but in my opinion, surely the government are going to lose this judicial review, because there's no way, quite frankly, that if the broad scopes of the COVID inquiry, there's a broad scope of evidence that they can request. The government are using the unambiguously irrelevant complaint. There's nothing in the COVID inquiry that sort of says that this can't be requested and all that sort of thing. Their scope, in terms of scope, is huge. And, you know, they can request this information if they want to, and I don't know why the government is simply acting like I don't want to say the P word, a bunch of wussies, really, to be fair, and not just simply handing over the documents for the inquiry. I mean, we may not be able to see it when the inquiry starts and everything. It could be private for obvious reasons, and understandably so. But it's only going to be the chair of the COVID inquiry is a judge, is a former judge who probably has access to a lot of national security information, has probably got clearance to access and everything like that. So what's the problem? Why are they even wasting taxpayer money on legal battles, which I don't think they're going to win, because the COVID inquiry lawyers probably have a good, good terms and broad terms of references for the inquiry, and the government are just not bothering. It smells like a bit of a COVID cover up to me, that documents cannot even be sent over to inquiry that has the power, legal power, and if they didn't hand over the documents, they could be criminally charged to be able to do this sort of thing. It stinks of something smelly, Charlie, quite frankly, and I suspect there may be more to this than we see in the eye.
Yeah, will there be a COVID inquiry for Beergate as well? I'm pretty sure we remember what happened then, but I'm not gonna.
I don't think there'll be an inquiry for
concerned.
that. The police dropped that one. I don't think there's going to be an inquiry for that one. No. The police found nothing in that one, and I don't know why. I don't know why people think it's interesting enough to be brought up again. But there we go. So yeah, there won't be a inquiry on that. There'll definitely be a inquiry about why the Cabinet Office is refusing to do their job.
Yeah, I was going to say, I mean, obviously you might remember what happened with the investigation in Durham Police's issues with the Labour Party. Obviously that got cleared, and the Conservative one, Boris Johnson and Rishi Sunak, were both fined by the Met Police. I mean, wearing a seatbelt, kind of understandable. When you don't wear a seatbelt, you are going to be effectively breaking the rules there. But yeah, I have to say, I do think there is problems for the government, and in my opinion, I think Rishi Sunak's under a lot of pressure here. You can tell the Conservative Party are split with this. So comment down below, guys, what you make of it. That's all I can say. Moving on now to the war in Ukraine. Now, Russian invasion of Ukraine is over 1 year old now, but we have seen this week both sides at an all-out war against each other. War is back in Europe now. This is what I mean by war. Missile attacks and drone attacks. Both countries, Russia and Ukraine, have seen attacks. We don't obviously know, both sides blaming each other for it. Now, there was one the other day. Russia launched several at the Ukrainian capital, Kyiv, the other night. Unfortunately, a 9-year-old girl died, I believe, after a clinic got hit by a Russian ballistic missile the other day. My thoughts with all those who've lost loved ones in that. Zach, I have to say, though, both sides accusing each other of death and destruction.
Yeah, and the war itself, and all the attacks are actually spreading into mainland or border region of Russia now. You may have seen activity in Belgorod, the Belgorod region, where there's been several attacks actually by Ukrainian resistance groups, not potentially by the Ukraine army itself, but by Ukrainian anti-Russia Ukrainian resistance groups who have decided to try and take it into their own hands, actually, as well. Now they're called the Freedom of Russia Legion, this anti-Russian sort of inside group that are actually sort of doing their own mini offenses within the Russia, between the Ukraine and Russian borders, as well. And now the Russians, I think, are successfully managed to counter some of this, but they are not without a few bits of damage. We've also seen as well, in very unusual cases, drones over Moscow itself. Now, we don't know whether the drones came from from Ukraine itself. We have no independent verification on that. There was still obviously got to be intelligence on that. But there is a whisk of where are these coming from? From Russia and the international community as well. Obviously, there's still a lot of, given the fact there's been attacks in Russia itself, we should mention there's been a lot of attacks itself in Ukraine. Kyiv itself has been bombardment of drones, ballistic missiles for several nights out. Now, Kyiv has, the Ukraine defense managed to successfully repel most of them. But some of them have caused damage to residential buildings as well. Unfortunately, it has injured some people as well, and we should protect those. My thoughts on those people that have been injured. But the events in Belgorod today has resulted in the fact that schools have had to be shut, and students' exams have had to be called off, which is don't know whether it's just panicking by the Russians because their area is under threat, or whether it's just there's an actual threat in the area, and Russia's having to take actions by the resistance group of the Freedom of Russia Legion, destroying Russian targets potentially better than the Belgorod region. It's a fascinating and quite interesting development. Obviously, this is all the start of the build up to potential counteroffensive that is supposed to happen. Now, Kyiv has set a date for it, but they're not. Obviously, the Ukrainian government, are setting a date for it. They're not revealing that date because obviously that's obvious reasons of why they're not going to reveal the dates, because you want to anticipate it, build it up into the point where we don't know where it's going to happen. But this is all, I suspect, some of this distraction before the actual counteroffensive, what potentially some of the anti-Russian groups are doing as well. And yeah, it's really interesting to see the dynamic of what's going on between anti-Russian groups in Russia, and obviously Russian attempts to, bombard Ukraine with missiles in Kherson, Kyiv, and other areas as well. It's quite strange, the situation, quite frankly, as well. And it resulted, and everyone's just going all out, pelting each other with missiles to see which one's going to get the most effective and which one's not. I mean, Zelensky's out in Moldova today. We're in the European Political Communities Group, talking about a lot of things about the war and everything like that as well. Political Community Summit as well. It's all talk about security guarantees and major issues across the continent of Europe as well. So yeah, there's just a lot of dynamic going on, a lot of cat fighting before the actual counteroffensive itself potentially going to start. Who knows? It's been talked up at the moment, but we're still waiting for it. But I imagine it will start soon. But yeah, a lot of, I have to say, unusual activity happening in Belgorod itself, and within the Russian borders, and on Ukraine as well.
It was very, very interesting, and this news story proves it to you. 3 people, including a child, were killed. 3 children, in 3 people, including a child, were killed, and at least 11 people were injured in the early morning missile attack on Kyiv. It hit apartment buildings, 2 schools, and a children's clinic, according to city authorities. An attack on the International Children's Day reportedly involved 10 Icelandic short-range missiles and only a few minutes warning the most. And here, most of the damage appeared to be from falling debris after the incoming missile was intercepted by a capital's air defense. We can actually confirm it's an 11-year-old girl, another mother, and another woman were killed in that missile strike there. Again, horrible events. We just hope everyone's okay. It's a horrible evening for horrible everyone. I just really hope Kyiv and Ukraine right now are standing strong. It's a horrible war. 460 day 463. I mean, this war in Ukraine is longer than the entire of the Blitz happened for the German invasion of Britain. I mean, think of that. I mean, it's turning into a Syria conflict now more than anything. So, yeah, not ideal if you ask me as well. By the way, if you want to know what happened in obviously Turkey, Erdogan is now re-elected president. So, yeah, that is the latest news. More on that later on. Now, moving on now to, I'm going to talk about America now. Now, there has been this week a lot of campaigning for the next Republican nominee. Now, we know that obviously Ron DeSantis, the Florida governor, launched somewhat of an interesting campaign launch on Twitter, which didn't exactly go well, from what I've heard. As well, Donald Trump has, of course, been criticizing his Republican rival, the Florida governor, on a few issues. Now, we did see a video that Trump posted just the other day on his YouTube channel and also on Truth Social, where he appeared to criticize his key rival. I mean, we have seen Donald Trump obviously talk about his agenda, but it was a very interesting video that he wanted to share, obviously. And DeSantis certainly was criticized in that video that Trump launched. Have a listen to this little clip I'm about to play.
In December of 2017, Ron DeSanctimonious was polling at 5% in the Republican primary for governor of Florida. 5%. DeSantis had virtually no endorsements and was being drastically outraised by Agricultural Commissioner Adam Putnam, the widely viewed favorite. He was going to win. He was going to win easy. He was way up. Ron had zero chance of winning. On December 21st, 2017, a man named President Donald J. Trump endorsed in support of Ron DeSanctimonious. His polling skyrocketed, and DeSantis won the Republican primary 57 to 37. He was down so many points, and all of a sudden he wins by 20. He was already looking for jobs. But he did it because of President Trump. Thank you very much, Ron. Thank you very much.
Thank you there to former President Donald Trump there on that campaign trail. Now, Zach, what did you make to the latest developments from the Republican candidates? Oh, we've lost Zach there. Sorry, I apologize.
I was on mute. Yeah, I think I was auto muted there for a minute. But yeah, no. On the developments of the Republican campaign, most of the candidates are out in Iowa and New Hampshire this week. Obviously, on the campaign trail, we know that Tim Scott's entered the race. We know that obviously Ron DeSantis entered the race. Ron DeSantis obviously is the biggest challenger to Trump at the moment, although biggest challenger to Trump is saying something when even Trump is well ahead as well in the opinion polls. Currently so far. But yeah, it's clear that the old bond between Trump and DeSantis has always been flourished already with those presidential announcements. Already, Ron DeSantis has been very much more effective. Well, not to say effective, but very more direct in his attacks at Trump this week. He's been very much pointing his name, not something that he used to do. He's very much pointed, he's very much pointed to some things like such as a previous criminal justice reform policy that Trump signed into law. He's been critical about the drama that Trump made as well. He's been critical recently about Joe Biden, very unsurprisingly as well. Let's be honest, all the Republican primary contenders are always going to be critical about Biden. Critical about the debt ceiling deal that's been reached this week between House and the both sides, and between Republicans and Democrats, the president and Kevin McCarthy. Very critical of that, which is, by the way, could well pass tonight and tomorrow morning. That avoid a default on the US government. Yeah, so he's been very much more direct. He's been his usual self, talk about woke ideology, Floridizing the United States, having a go at reporters, very much him as well. Very much typical there. But we're also going to see eventually, Trump has also attacked DeSantis as well. Special things as well. He mentioned the Medicare, Medicare, poll taxes, well, Social Security, getting rid of Social Security, those sort of things that he's attacked for. So, typical Trump playbook. He's also been criticizing the police officer who shot Ashley Babbitt, who legitimately shot him because Ashley Babbitt was being a bit criminal and breaking into properties as well, and rightly got shot, quite frankly. I don't often say that about police people, praising police people in America, but the police did their job correctly on that one. And soon, by the way, we're going to get two more presidential candidates into the race. We're going to have potentially Chris Christie, who ran in 2016 and didn't get far with his campaign. And in the next few weeks, it's expected to be announced. Multiple sources are going to are saying that Mike Pence, the former vice president under President Trump, will also enter the presidential race the next couple of weeks as well. Now, Mike Pence is obviously certainly going to be an interesting one, given the fact he was VP and very publicly disagree with some of the Trump's decisions over the last few months or so on January the 6th. As well, some of the rhetoric and everything like that. He's obviously very conservative. He still holds some very conservative policy, but it's just about the calmness and the chaos, I suspect, as well. Whereas Ron DeSantis is going to go for his feisty, good freedom spirit as well. It's going to be a tasty field. Nevertheless, as well, I think they're all going to be going to blows against each other. But with Pence entering the field, and a few new revelations about Trump this week as well, by the way, caught on tape, knowing that he had a classified document while speaking at Mar-a-Lago in May 2021, whilst he was subpoenaed to give records to the National Archives. It's not a good sign for him if he's on the record. This is a part of the criminal investigation into him by the DOJ regarding January 6th and obstruction of handing over documents as well from Mar-a-Lago. So yeah, this is not good for him in terms of potential charges on his as well on that front. On Joe Biden's side of things, I have to mention something that happened just recently, earlier today actually. He's been speaking at a university, although things have not been plain sailing. Shall I say that as well?
No.
In fact, things have got a bit trippy for him.
Oh dear.
He fell over on the stage at an Air Force graduation as well. And I'm very, very interested for you to see this as well. I'm pretty sure you'll catch up later. But it looks like as well, he fell out off not the stage, but he fell over on the stage. It looks like there was something on the floor that President Biden put his feet on and then slipped over it. But yeah, it's there's obviously going to be those.
We've got the I've just found it actually whilst I'm here.
Yeah.
It maybe sounds like if you're a Republican watching this, maybe the cringeworthy.
They're going to love this if you're a Republican. I'll tell you that.
Here we go. Here we go.
There it is. He slipped over something apparently. From the video I just saw as well, he slipped over. As well, and it's just incredible, really. He looks fine, to be fair. He looks okay. Did get a little bit of help up, but he appears to be fine. Nothing too severe by the looks of it. As well.
We've got the clip here for you guys. This is President Biden. There we go.
Yeah, there he goes. Where he goes, he gone.
Right.
He had a little bit of help up, but looked like he was able to get it up. Little assistant there. There we go. He's up. He's good. He's fine. Look, he's walking on his own. And apparently, from what I understand, he then stayed there to the crowd and greeted them for 2 hours on his own ability. So, for an 80-year-old who does fall over sometimes, he seems like he's okay and physically able to do the job. I know others are going to probably disagree with that and call it cognitive decline into question, but nevertheless, as well, a little bit of an embarrassment there for Joe Biden on the.
I think we all remember the Air Force. Was it the Air Force One thing when he fell up the stairs then? So, and not exactly a. Joe Biden certainly having an issue there. I'm not going to go into it on my show, but yeah, that is all the latest news from America. We're now going to go over to the sports news. We have a lot of sports news to talk about tonight. And I'm going to start off for all you football fans out there who watched last weekend's Premier League action.
Oh God!
Now, I'm actually now. By the way, guys, I only follow the football through my friends and stuff, and through just local fixtures in that, really. But I'm going to talk to you guys about the football last weekend because there was a couple of surprises in the final results, the Premier League result table It included a shock result. Sorry, Zach, I know you're not going to like this. I know that Leicester City,
please remind me.
were relegated last week. And we can also confirm Leeds also went down following a loss against Tottenham 4-1. That was despite Leicester, though, beating West Ham 2-1. You'd think, okay, Leicester have won, but then Everton somehow beat Bournemouth late on to win and stay up under Sean Dyche. So, very interesting. But the scores are in 2-1 Aston Villa against Brighton. Villa in Europe, Everton beat Bournemouth 1-0 as I mentioned. 4-1 winners for Leeds, and Tottenham beating Leeds. Brentford beat Manchester City 1-0. Man U beat Fulham 2-1. 1-1 draw between Chelsea and Newcastle. Leicester beat West Ham 2-1. Arsenal were 5-0 winners against Wolves, finishing about 5 points behind Man City in the end. Southampton and Liverpool, relegated Southampton, should I say, 4-4 draw. Crystal Palace and Nottingham Forest ended up as well with a 1-1 draw. Zach, what did you take away from the Premier League's final day?
Well, wasn't it just a final day? I'll get through to the bad stuff at the end, actually. I'll leave that to the end. Let's talk about the other results first of all. Aston Villa, congratulations to them. They have reached 7th place in the table, and they get the final European slot, which is basically third qualifying round into the Europa Conference League for next season. Now, they're not in the main stage proper yet. They have to go through a third qualifying round, but that, if they go through that, then they'll be in the group stages of the Europa Conference League. And congratulations to Unai Emery, who took a club who were in relegation spots early on, well, near to the bottom, early on in the season under Steven Gerrard. And then Unai Emery comes in and absolutely transforms the club from going from the bottom half to top 7 in a matter of half the season. Very impressive and well done, Unai Emery. Brighton, as you know, lost the match, but already through. They're already in Europa League because they managed to get 6th position. Well done to them on that result, on for that as well. But they did lose that one. Let's talk about the other one, Everton. This was a big match to them. Their destiny was in their hands. All they had to do was win, and they would be guaranteed themselves, Premier League football for next season. If they drew, however, they would have been relegated because the results of Leicester would have decided pretty much whether they would have stayed up, and the results at Leeds as well. For Everton, though, they did what they needed to do in a massive, major goal scoring, a major goal scorer as well. 1-0 victory for them in that as well. I mean, it's quite simply a stunning result as well. It was a Doucouré in the 57th minute that scored an absolute belter, and as a result, it meant that Everton has stayed up and secured 17th position, surviving by the skin of their teeth. I mean, it wasn't easy for them, but Doucouré with a massive goal. The same can't be said, though, for Leeds United. In the relegation zone in 19th position, they had to win to have salvage some sort of opportunity to get out the at the bottom 3. They, I'm afraid, have been performing poorly all season. Whilst Jack Harrison did get a goal in the 67th minute, there were goals for Porro, for Spurs, Harry Kane in the 2nd and 69th minute as well, and Lucas Moura in the 95th minute in it, and that still leads United's relegation to the Championship as well. Now, unfortunately for Tottenham, this was going to be a good opportunity for them, but there's no European football for them next season at all, because Aston Villa won their match against Brighton. It meant that Villa had qualified for that 7th place in the Europa Conference League, and Spurs will not be playing European football next season for the first time in several years, actually, as well. I mean, it was a big win for Tottenham Hotspur, but it was not the result that they needed because they failed to qualify for European football. So whilst they were happy, so it was a good, big result for them in terms of goals scored, it wasn't enough in the subject to the table as well on that spot. Brentford, Man City. Brentford have been strong across Big Six clubs this season. they're the only side Man City have not beaten this season at all in the Premier League. 1-0 victory for them, for Brentford as well. A very good result for it. Pinlock in the 85th minute as well. It looks like Ivan Toney's ban has not affected Brentford's ability to be able to do good football. And yeah, very good result for Brentford as well. Man United 2-1. Obviously, the Man United, there was another dead rubber, to be fair, for Man United and Fulham. No, it was Tele who scored in the 19 minutes that put Fulham in front, but then it was Jadon Sancho, who had a good recovery this match, and then Bruno Fernandes as well, to get to win Man United 2-1. Rumours this week of Man United signing Mason Mount. There is some big rumours going on about that, and it looks like a sign is going to happen. So Mason Mount from Chelsea to Man United looks like it's going to be happening soon. And speaking of Chelsea, a 1-1 draw against Newcastle. Again, Newcastle have been good form this season as well. They've secured European football as well. Chelsea in the bottom half of the table for the first time in many years. It sums up a disappointing season as well. It's very disappointing for them. Let's move on to Leicester and West Ham. This is honestly the most devastating result I have to talk about tonight. Leicester City were easily the best team throughout that match. They won. That was the main thing. They won against West Ham. That was their main goal. They won. But although they won, Everton won as well. And for the first time since their dream Premier League era is over for Leicester City. They've been up for the top division 6 or 7 years. They won a Premier League title as well. As a Leicester fan, it's incredibly disappointing. I mean, personally, myself, I can't really see myself watching much Championship football next season. It's not like sort of a league I would follow quite a lot. But yeah, it's just, as a Leicester fan, it's obviously very disappointing for me personally that they've gone down. And what a ride though! What a ride it's been these last few years. Winning a title, getting European football, and yeah, it goes from 8th position one year to relegation the next. They just couldn't save themselves, and I just think there was just some poor performances all around. That Yuri Tillman is now leaving the club at the end of the season. Expect Madison and Barnes potentially could be going as well. They're going to be a big clear up in the Leicester City squad to get it Championship ready as well. So yeah, disappointing for them. West Ham have got something to look forward to next week, by the way. They've got the Europa Conference League final with Fiorentina as well, coming up on Wednesday at 8:00. So there's an opportunity for West Ham to make their way to the Europa League next season if they win the Europa Conference League. It's a massive opportunity for West Ham fans for next week. That'll be on 8:00 as well. I'll come to the other football result in the Europa League later on actually as well. Let's do Arsenal Wolves. 5-0 victory for Arsenal. I think it's too little too late in terms of their victory. 5 points behind Man City at the end of the season. This win came too little too late, but it was a good result. Again, it was against the Wolves side, were very poor on the day. The most exciting match of the weekend probably came from Southampton-Liverpool. 4-4 draw. I mean, where does that come from? It was a messy match. It was goals from Ward-Prowse, Sulemana, Aaron Armstrong, Diego Jota as well, Roberto Firmino and Cody Gakpo, who may be on his way out of Liverpool at the end of the season as well. Relegated Southampton will be obviously playing in the Championship next season, but they've managed to get put in the last performance to be pleased off. Palace and Forest. Palace, not much. Again, is really much dead rubber. This one, Forest secured their safety a couple of weeks ago, and they managed to get a result out of Palace with a 1-1 draw, with Will Hughes and Tawa Anaobi scoring the goals as well. But yeah, next season we'll see the inclusion of Burnley, Sheffield United, and now Luton Town in the Premier League after Luton won their playoffs at Wembley on the Saturday as well last week as well. And I said as well, I'm going to get to this bit in Europa League as well. There's been finals going on this week. It was between Seville and Roma. Seville won their 8th, I think it was an 8th or 9th Europa League trophy after Europa League trophy after winning on penalty shootouts as well, thanks to a poor Rome performance. Future of Jose Mourinho is now at risk. Now, thanks to that, Rome has lost, but who knows whether we'll see another club next season or not. And coming up this Saturday is the FA Cup final between Manchester City and Manchester United. Good luck to those who are trying to get to Wembley for 3 o'clock, because there are train strikes that day. So good luck to getting there. But it's going to be the first Manchester derby in the history of the FA Cup final as well. We could call it 3 o'clock as well. Can Manchester City move another step towards the treble next week as well? Will be very interesting to see on that front as well. But that's all the football up to date there as well.
Well, yes, certainly a long lecture there from Zach on the football as well. And I'm sure for everyone who watched the Premier League, I hope that everyone does well. Of course, we've got the FA Cup final. We've got the Europa Conference League final coming up as well. West Ham are playing in that, so we wish them luck as well. And of course, we also have we have the Women's World Cup coming up soon as well. So good luck to the ladies playing football. Now we're going to talk about the other motorsport events. Now, obviously, we have the Coca-Cola 600 for NASCAR. That was at Charlotte. We'll come on to that a bit later. But I just want to touch on the weekend. Now, we're going to start with the main event, which was, of course, Formula One, Monaco Grand Prix, and the Indy 500. Now, I'm going to talk about the Indy 500 now, because Joseph Newgarden, only just by the skin of his teeth, beat last year's winner, or the 2022 winner, Marcus Ericsson, in a feisty last two-lap shootout after multiple cautions. And it also included as well a very frightening accident for Felix Rosenqvist and Carl Kirkwood. Now, what happened means that will probably surely explain what happened in a minute, but I'll explain as well. What happened was Felix Rosenqvist went off just after turn 2, or just after the first corner, actually. He lost control of his car, went off. It was Arrow McLaren. Unfortunately, Carl Kirkwood's car collected Felix Rosenqvist, and it launched a tyre over the catch fence and into the crowd. Goodness me. This reminds me of the 1955 Le Mans 24-hour crash involving Pierre Levay and Lance Macklin. Remember that crash when the Mercedes burnt up in magnesium alloy and was in flames? I've been watching some pretty shocking videos of that today because, of course, Le Mans coming up very, very soon. Reminds me of that. I don't think, from what I understand, there were any deaths. I hope there weren't any deaths, because it was a horrible accident, horrible thing to happen. I do not want to be seeing debris flying into the crowd. I mean, that's horrible. These racing circuits have evolved so much since 1955. And we're in modern day racing. I mean, it was horrible. But Zach, I have to say, I mean, the Indy 500 this year was certainly very, very eventful. I have to say, more eventful than Monaco Grand Prix.
Oh, certainly was. I mean, it was a chaotic, wreck-fest-filled Indy 500, full of twists and turns. The favourites at first ended up crashing on pit road and colliding together. Romain Grosjean, Alex Palou ended up colliding on pit road. That was a bit of a twist turning point in one of the races, I think I have to say, on that one as well. But you had so many lead changes as well. And to the point, so much wrecks on the restart, quite frankly, as well. Then we had a crash, red flag, then another crash, then a red flag, then another crash as well. Nobody could keep a clean restart towards the end of the race. Cautions breed cautions, as they say, as well. But it left us with a one-lap shootout as well to decide the winner of the Indy 500. Marcus Ericsson was the one that was leading up to it. And then onto the backstretch, Joseph Newgarden flies through, manages to stay in the draft and overtake before turn 3. Obviously, Ericsson had a good run as well to start, finish straight, but it simply wasn't enough. And Joseph Newgarden, after all his attempts in IndyCar, won his first Indy 500 in all his appearances. And congratulations to him as well. It was an incredible move to be able to win that race on the very last lap, which I thought wasn't possible because Ericsson took off absolutely flying off, and he could have been the first back-to-back Indy 500 winner since Helio Castroneves in the 2000s. But it's stunning in a fashion. Newgarden managed to overtake on the backstretch as well. Good move and great stuff as well on there as well. Now, as you mentioned, Charlie, we had some quite scary accidents during the race as well. I want to mention Felix Rosenqvist as well, who spun and got loose at the end of turn 2, hit the wall, then spun as well towards turn 3. And it looked okay. And then he came back up to the third circuit. And the one he collected was Kyle Kirkwood, who spun halfway, went sideways into the wall, hit it hard, and then flipped the car. But because of the way that Felix Rosenqvist front wing hit very gently, lightly, but significantly Kyle Kirkwood's car, the wheel ring came off. The wheel itself went flying into the ground and just avoiding the grandstand, but went over the catch plate. Now, I believe it hit a car on one of the sort of parking areas out there as well. But it was a very scary sight to see, and thankfully nobody was injured. Nobody received serious injuries at all. As well, everyone seems to come out of it mainly okay, and thankfully Kyle Kirk was okay as well. Felix Rosenqvist was okay as well. And there was a few accidents as well with Romain Grosjean. I know there's a few as well with multiple cars as well on the front stretch, on the restarts as well. But yeah, it all came to well. Catherine Legg was on retired with an incident as well. As you can see, RG Emerson as well, Stingray Rob, Romain Grosjean, David Lucas, Kyle Kirk, Felix Rosenqvist, as well, Simon Pagenaud, Pato Will as well, Will Power, not Will Power, Pato Ward, as well, all involved. Augustin Campano, Felix Rosenqvist, all got involved in crashes as well. But again, honestly, Jason Newgarden with an incredible last map move to win the Indy 500, by the way. Incredible stuff as well. Well done to him. Great move as well.
So Joseph Newgarden taking a win ahead of Marcus Ericsson second. Santino Ferrucci, shout out to him with a great result, third place after a very strong qualifying. Alex Palou was fourth. Alexander Rossi was fifth. Scott Dixon was sixth. Takuma Sato seventh. Connor Daly eighth. Colton Herta ninth. Marinas VK was in 10th. And I heard he had a collision on pit road as well with another driver.
Yeah.
And there was an event, one of the drivers who had an incident in the pit lane. But yes, sir, it was Alex Palou. Thank you, Zach.
Yeah, it was Romain Grosjean, if I remember rightly, as well. They ended up colliding on pit road, which they're teammates, by the way, and they collided when they come out of the pit lane. Yeah, it was a very embarrassing and quite frankly, very awkward collision involving what happened there. But there you can see there's the driver stands at the moment after the Indy 500 as well. Alex Palou is still well ahead of Ericsson second, but obviously. That result probably would have helped Ericsson in many ways as well, but still behind Alex Palou. Pato Award in third, Jason Newgarden fourth, Scott Dixon fifth, Scott McLaughlin, Paul was up for him in the Indy 500 sixth as well. And then you can see Alex Rossi, Romain Grosjean, all involved in that one. And I think ninth position. Who's that in ninth position as well? Can I just mind for you?
That is Will Power, last year's champion, by the way, as well. Will Power.
Yeah, Colton Herta as well in 10th position. As well, so that's the standings going into that race as well. And obviously, this weekend we're still IndyCar in this weekend as well. They're going to Detroit, to the Chevrolet Detroit Grand Prix, on the grounds of Detroit there. Of course, as well, that's on the 8. I think it's on 8 p.m. UK time. As well, that's happening there. So yeah, plenty to look forward to. More IndyCar this weekend, and they're going to take a little break, 2-week break afterwards. Afterwards, they're going to be at Road America as well.
Yeah, that is all the IndyCar news as well. In the Formula One, we can confirm Max Verstappen won that race. Zach, what did you make of the F1 in Monaco? Quickly.
Yeah, I mean, the F1 was dramatic at some point of the race. I mean, it started raining halfway through the race, which was forecasted, but it was good to see that there was actually a bit of rain. Didn't change too much of the field, quite frankly, to be honest. It was Max Verstappen that got, I have to say, one of the best pole positions you would ever see in Monaco for a long time. Coming from 2/10 down in the last sector to get pole by nearly 1/10 of a second was really stunning. But he managed to control the race. did struggle a little bit as well. Hit the wall a few times during the rain period. Everyone was off, but no safety cars. Managed to keep it clean, despite a few offs in there as well. Did change the field a little bit, but at the end of the day, it was Alonso. It was Verstappen and Alonso, and Ocon round out the top three. Great weekend for Esteban Ocon. As well, not so good for McLaren. For Mercedes and for Sergio Perez as well. As well, Lance Stroll also got caught up in a few incidents as well. But it was a good weekend as well of action as well. We're racing at the Circuit de Catalunya this weekend. There has been some changes to the circuit. They're going back to the old configuration. I think it's pre-2006 style configuration at the final corner. So instead of that sort of bendy sort of chicane, they're now going a flat right and then straight onto the front stretch as well. So they've reduced the corner there as well. No more dodgy chicanes. So that means cars should be quicker. There are more opportunities for overtaking potentially as well at the corner. So yeah, it'll be good there to see it and as well in action. But yeah, it'll be for the Spanish Grand Prix this weekend. Home race for Fernando Alonso and Carlos Sainz. Will be good for them to put in some good performances as well. And this weekend it'll be at 2:00 UK time as well. As well for that one, and then we're going to be 2 weeks after that. Will be the Canadian Grand Prix as well. But yeah, Spanish Grand Prix this weekend as well. And yeah, so looking forward to that.
Watch Aston Martin this weekend as well, because they're bringing upgrades. From what I understand, I read up on their Instagram page that this weekend they are reckoning upgrades could make them 0.2 of a second quicker. Whether that will prove them or not, we will do not know. But in the race there, or the Monaco Grand Prix, it was Max Verstappen, the one for Red Bull Racing. Fernando Alonso is second in the Aston Martin. Esteban Ocon was third for Alpine, his best result of the season. Lewis Hamilton was fourth. George Russell fifth for Mercedes. Charles Leclerc sixth. Pierre Gasly seventh. Carlos Sainz eighth for Ferrari. Ninth and 10th for the two McLarens. Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri. That is the results there from the Formula One Monaco Grand Prix. Now, obviously as well, NASCAR as well, we just want to say, and that was the Coca-Cola 600. That was won by... Actually, no, I was wrong. It wasn't Kyle Larson. That was last week's race. It was Ryan Blaney that took the honours in that. This has been a very busy night of motor racing, let's be honest with you. We have had reports, though, from understanding sources. Chase Elliott will be banned for the next race.
Yes.
From what I have read up, he had a very aggressive collision, from what I understand, in that race. It angered, I think, Denny Hamlin, from what I understand, who was involved in it.
Yeah.
Zach, what did you make to that race?
Yeah, so let's talk about the incident, because obviously Chase Elliott has been suspended for one race for an incident with Denny Hamlin. Now, you may remember Bubba Wallace got himself into a similar incident in Las Vegas last year for deliberately wrecking someone out of the final corner and into turn 4. Well, this is exactly what's just happened with Chase Elliott. Managed to get him suspend him for one race as well. And yeah, I'm not surprised really. It was it looked like he deliberately wrecked Denny Hamlin, and obviously a quite hard hit for Denny Hamlin in many ways as well. So based on precedent, I think the decision is correct. Obviously, Bubba Wallace got that one race suspension for a deliberate wrecking Las Vegas last season. So yeah, I mean it's precedent as well. There's just a case of wondering. Corey LaJoie is going to step in for Chase Elliott this weekend. Chase Elliott will need to get a waiver now to remain playoff eligible now that he's been suspended for a race. As well, but it was Ryan Blaney, as you said, that won the race ahead of William Byron in second, Martin Truex third, Bubba Wallace fourth, Tyler Reddick fifth, Kyle Busch sixth, Stenhouse seventh, Chris Buescher eighth, Austin Dillon ninth, and it was Zane Smith in 10th position. Good result by Zane Smith, by the way, as well. A very good result, I have to say, as well. He's not got any points because he's only a part-time driver, so won't be eligible for points, but it's a very good result for him in the 38 car as well. Some excellent driving as well. There was DNF and Jimmy Johnson, who spun around. Noah Gragson, who got caught out. Obviously, Denny Hamlin as well. Obviously, Chase Elliott, Todd Gilliland, Austin Cindric, Kyle Larson wrecked as well towards the end of the race as well. I should point out this race was a bit of a mess, quite frankly, because it was rain delayed from the Sunday to the Monday because of rain, and they had to restart on the daytime. There was further rain delayed as well during the race. But yeah, like I said, Ryan Blaney was the one that managed to get the victory ahead of it as well. In Charlotte as well. And this weekend, the NASCAR Cup Series is racing, I believe, at Gateway as well. And the Xfinity Series is racing, I believe, slightly differently. So that, just so you know, so the NASCAR Cup Series are at Gateway this weekend, I believe, as well. The Xfinity Series is at Portland this weekend, so a slightly different circuit as well, International Raceway, and they're on the road course, I think, as well. This weekend, which is actually going to be quite interesting to see, nevertheless. Slightly different. And so are the Truck Series is also a Gateway this weekend, but the Xfinity Series is at Portland, so slightly different as well. The Cup Series this weekend is the Enjoy Illinois 300 presented by Ticketmaster, Smarter as well. That is at 8:30 UK time on a Sunday the 4th as well. That's happening next week, this weekend as well, as part as well. It's probably one of the shorter races of the season in terms of distances, being 300 miles as well. I must say that's probably the shortest as well I've known of, but nevertheless. And the Truck Series is also racing this weekend as well, so the Xfinity Series, but obviously like Portland rather than Gateway as well. So looking forward to seeing that action ahead as well on the weekend.
Plenty. That is all the motorsport news, and it certainly has been a very busy one for motor racing fans. I've just realised we are running a bit over time, but we've got a special conversation Call Street segment tonight now, where we're going to be talking all about. Well, I'm going to just quickly go over a couple of things here. We're going to talk now about the latest additions to Britain's Got Talent. If you guys have been watching the show, we won't give it too many spoilers away. I'm not about tonight's results. Come watch the results. Obviously, tonight I watched MB14 before, with your love, your beatboxing and stuff, your freestyle, like Craig David kind of style music. He was on the show as well. The finalists for BGT have been confirmed. Oh, God, I don't want to keep actually reading them up because they'll probably update this. We have got all I can tell you is we've got Musa in the final, the dance. So we've also got South African. We've also got Amy Lou, who's also gone in. We also had as well a guy wearing a high vis jacket in the final as well. I don't know what to say about someone wearing a high vis jacket. I'm sure he would get buzzed in the final. As well. If anyone please remembers his name, please comment down below because I keep forgetting it. And then we had, of course, Olivia Lyons, Amanda Holden's Golden Buzzer, performing as well. Zach, what did you make to Britain's Got Talent semi-finals at the moment?
I've really enjoyed this week actually so far. There's one more semi-final to go tomorrow, and then it's the final Sunday. I'll try not to give anything away for tonight because I think it's really important that you were able to watch it tonight, Charlie.
There have been buzzers tonight as well.
Yeah, there have been buzzers, I should say. I will make a point. There has been buzzers tonight as well, but there has been 3 semi-finals obviously before tonight, as I should point out as well. So the acts, there was some acts as well. Last night we had something like what was it? Here we go. We had Travis George, singer from South Wales, and a very good singer by the way, as well. Dylan B, the 12-year-old schoolboy who sang an impressive version of "Listen" by Beyonce during his audition. We had Toy 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 performing yo-yo tricks as well. We had Marcus Birdman, for a comedian from Essex, Harry Churchill, 11-year-old schoolboy as well. We had the Ghetto Kids as well, a dance group for Uganda made of disadvantaged orphan children between 5 and 13 who were, by the way,
they are in the final, by the way, as well. They won the semi-final just last night.
And I should point out as well, the one with the jacket that you mentioned, Charlie, was Vigo Venn.
Vigo
Venn, who absolutely set the audience alight, and so did the general public by getting the winner of the public vote. Last night's results. The Tuesday's results, I should point out. Apologies, Tuesday's results. But it was hilarious. It was even more hilarious than his first performance, I have to say as well. And I'm sure he's going to think of something for the final, but it's just, oh my goodness me! It was quite cringe, but it was quite stupid. But it was sets the public alight, and the audience as well. I mean, it was incredible. Nevertheless, honestly, I just thought, wow. And we also had as well in the first semi-final a few good singers as well. I should point out as well, because there were some really
Amy Lou and
Amy Lou,
Musa went through there in that one.
Musa, the dancer with one leg, I believe, as well.
Yeah.
Obviously went incredible talents for him to be doing that with his disabilities. It's really some stunning stuff, I have to say as well. And he's going to be a big contender for Sunday's final, I think, as well. So yeah, I think it's going to be a dramatic, I think, final. I think because of the list of talented people and contestants that are going to be in there. There's going to be some funny, some hilarious, some brilliant. Oh my goodness me, as well. So yeah, great job by everybody, and I'm looking forward to the final on Sunday, and as well as the semi-final tomorrow night as well.
Yeah, 8 golden buzzers this year as well. It was a huge number of them that made the final. So yeah, and then Musa, by the way, was the judges. The judges had the choice. It was America's Got Talent with the judges' golden buzzer that they all pressed. So yeah, and we could also confirm. Should we give it away? I don't know. There was a cat on the show. I can confirm that I believe a lot of you guys have probably been listening in the comments. That was Tom Ball that performed. In the cat that was appearing on the show. So yeah, very interesting there. That's all I can say. By the way, he was, I think, like runner-up or third place at something like last year. So yeah, he came back on again, runner-up. So yeah, that's all I can say on that one. As well, and also as well, finally, before we move on and do the papers, I just want to give you a quick update on the latest news from the breweries now. I bet a lot of you guys have been wanting to ask me about your prices on beers lately. I can just confirm the beer prices. Because actually, beers are an important part of your life, whether it's zero alcohol or interesting alcohol as well. But I'm going to talk about Bud Light now, as they risk losing their title after promoting transgender on their advertising product. Now, this has been in the news for ages. Bud Light risks losing its title as the top-selling US beer to Modelo sales plunge since the Dylan Mulvaney tie-up. Yes, we might remember that. 20th of May, Light sales were down 25% after that happens. Now, a lot of you guys might drink IPAs, Copperberg ciders and stuff like that, like I have. I had one just before coming on air, by the way. It was alcohol-free, by the way. So a lot of you guys, if you do drink or you don't drink, let me know. I know exactly what your views are on alcohol. But yes, what do you make to this? Do you think this is a promotional flip up here?
I personally think that I don't really care, to be honest. I mean, it's because Dylan Mulvaney he's a trans person, but still, I feel like trans people, they should be included in this. I don't really see the big fuss, quite frankly. It just sounds like a lot of people's gone woke and everything. It's just, as people say, gone woke. It's just like bigots at the end of the day, I feel like. And on Pride Month, we have now reached Pride Month. And now everyone's going to be posting the fact that everyone wants to be free and to be who they are and everything like that. And they're all concerned about bloody, Dylan Mulvaney, who's a trans person, drinking Bud Light, promoting the thing. I mean, goodness me, it's all he did do promoting the thing. Not even that bad, to be fair. So, yeah, I think it's all a bit of an overreaction, to be honest, as well. And I just, I think it's all a bit of an overreaction. And I think, quite frankly, some of it has just been pathetic. It's a person promoting Bud Light. It's a trans person. Not harming you, not harming anyone else. Not going to transform you to some gender-neutralized monster or anything like that. He's just promoted the product. That's all. Get a life, I think.
So that's the latest news there from the trans debate. Of course, you might remember as well, Starbucks ended up having a fire employee last week after a woman went up to the till. Apparently, the person said, "Are you female?" when she identified herself as a biological female. So, yeah, this self-ID debate's getting interesting. Moving on now to the papers. I just want to say will there be anything in there relating to a protest that took place the other day as well? Right, let's go through this now. We've got so many more papers to get through. The Guardian goes for the front page of ministers launch the court bids to fire the COVID inquiry. The I goes for cabinet office leaks. The Financial Times goes the ECB signals further rises sharp fall of the Eurozone price surge comes as inflation drops to 6.1%. Investors bet on 2 more increases. Now, in terms of the ECB, the cricket board, England got blocked for their test against Ireland. Their team bus got blocked after Just Stop Oil protesters blocked them on the roads. In fact, they have been out in full force this week in London blocking roads, from what I can say, as well. And also as well, Metro goes to see you in court, as well. Sounds like Boris Johnson is in for a very difficult time. Zach, what do you make to the latest newspaper headlines?
Yeah, I will come to them in a minute, Charlie, if that's okay for you. But I've just got this in. One front page that is not showing, but is out there at the moment. I want to really mention this as well. This, you'll probably see it in a minute once this my flashy thing goes away. It will come up in a moment. By the way, it's just that it's there we go. You can start to see it. This is Philip Schofield. Yes, he's given an interview to The Sun tonight and to the BBC. By the way, my camera got a bit all funny. I should point. Apologies for that. My brightness has come back. Here I am, coming from the old eternal darkness. But The Sun have released an exclusive interview with Philip Schofield. Yes, that Philip Schofield from Good Morning fame as well. He's given an interview to The Sun where he says, "I'm broken and ashamed, but not a groomer." He says, "Axe Coast tells of affairs, disgraces, says sorry to Holly over lies." I'm just trying to read extracts of what he's been saying to The Sun as well. I'm trying to find out what has been said as well, what he's been putting as well. He's done an interview as well. Yeah. So I'm just trying to go through it as I speak as well, what I'm trying to get through. So what he said he's utterly broken and strained, but stressed he did not groom the person that he had an affair with behind the scenes at ITV this morning. As well, he said, I did not groom him. There were accusations, all sorts of things. It never came across that way because we became mates. Don't know about that. But of course, I understand there'll be a massive judgment. But bear in mind, I've never exercised this anywhere else. I assume somebody somewhere assumed something was going on correctly. Didn't say anything. At the time, I did not think about it possibly ruin my career. I probably read when I saw the rumor sort of growing. Then I saw the link with the drama school photo all these ago and thought this looks shopping. All that sort of thing as well. He'd be visibly shaken in his interview and all that sort of thing as well. It's on video, by the way. He's done this as well. He's done an interview with the BBC and The Sun, but in his first interview, he said he's not a groomer, all that sort of thing and everything like that. I think my greatest apology must go to him, according to what he said as well. It's brought the greatest misery into his totally innocent life, his totally innocent family, his totally innocent friend. It's brought the greatest grief to them. I haven't spoken to him since this SO kicked off. When this was beginning to get out of control, I paid for his lawyer to independent work on his behalf. I'm deeply sorry and I apologized because I should have known better. I should have acted away. And he also apologized for lying to Holly Willoughby as well in this interview, by the way, as well. Now, ITV have CEO Caroline McCall is going to be summoned to the Commons Media Committee on the 14th of June, I believe, as well, for questioning all about the Philip Schofield drama as well. So that's something that should be able to watch out for as well in the future. But yeah, the Philip Schofield back in the news tonight because he's giving interviews to The Sun and to the BBC about the situation. I just thought I'd mention that whilst it's not. And
I can confirm as well that this has been going on for a while. obviously you might have watched all news reports this week of Philip Schofield apparently having an affair with, I believe, a 15-year-old boy at the time, who then got a job on ITV and then also on Loose Women. There has been a lot of uncovered. Also, you watched Eamon Holmes on GB News this week talking out an interview where he absolutely ripped Philip Schofield apart. That was also announced as well on the show. You can go and watch that interview on Dan Woodson tonight for listening to that as well. But yeah, I have to say I'm very disappointed with ITV, and there is also, I believe, going to be a hearing next week. For ITV, I believe MPs will be questioning ITV's, I think, chief executive or something, and Carolyn McGriffin or something.
McCall just mentioned something like that as well. So I believe there's two things going to happen. So I believe ITV was summoned to a hearing next week anyway, as part of sort of a media build sort of related thing. But now they're doing a separate hearing for Carolyn McCall and for ITV as well, to be questioned over for what's the sort of situation for Philip Schofield. Now, by the way, I should mention as well, ITV have brought in an external investigation brought by a barrister as well, to examine the facts around his departure and all the fact that he lied to ITV, lied to Philip, lied to Hollywood, and lied to his agents as well. There's going to be a sort of a review led into this as well. So it's all happened on that front as well. We should obviously respect that investigation whilst it goes on as well. But let's talk about the other papers, should I say, Charlie, as well. 3 of the papers lead tonight with Boris Johnson, the Cabinet Office, and the COVID inquiry, and the fact that the Cabinet Office is now launching legal action as well against the inquiry. So let's start with The Guardian. Ministers launch court bids to defy COVID inquiry. Families and MPs expressed dismay over the Cabinet Office refused to release unredacted messages to the COVID inquiry, as covered by the Guardian. Obviously, the fact that the government are doing court act, they decided to launch a judicial review instead of the action, instead of sending over the documents. There's not only effects on the inquiry itself, but the families as well that want answers and questions on how this is allowed to their tragedies are allowed to happen. And it also obviously clearly affects as well all the people, the processes of this involved, and the victims and all their families as well. It's bad for them. It's obviously they want answers, and it feels for them that the Cabinet Office just simply not coordinating. The fact Rishi Sunak's government said that when he got into government, said he would be hold of transparency, would be at the heart of his government, and this just doesn't look like it. Quite frankly, it does not look like it at all. It looks more of a cover up than transparency and anything as well. And I feel sorry for the bereaved families who on their lawyers' behalf have had to witness this spectacle of taxpayer money being wasted on a judicial review that's probably not going to go much anyway as well, given the fact that Module 1 is due to start soon on the COVID inquiry. And I think as well, the eye goes for Cabinet Office over COVID inquiry, leak clash over secret WhatsApps. So government heading for court showdown, refusing to hand over full uncensored messaging between Boris Johnson and 40 ministers, by the way. So this is the context of 40 ministers were mentioned in this one. Some involved, I think, Rishi Sunak himself, a few others as well, chief staff, in many ways as well. Cabinet Office refused request for undirected WhatsApp messages for Parliament, arguing that it would violate individuals' privacy and damage future decision making. This is an inquiry, for goodness sake, I think as well. I think sending over your messages that may be deeply uncomfortable is not going to affect how it will influence decision making, but in a good way, because it will be lessons learned on future pandemics as well. And the fact is that you should, at least on the record, be able to explain your decisions and the conversation that you had. Legal expert, Cabinet Office, judicial against requested like to fail. Johnson not handed over his own messages covering the first year of COVID-19. So this is obviously the fact that he handed over the messages from May 2021 to now, but has failed to hand over messages before that, which is the core area of the COVID inquiry, because it obviously covers a phone apparently, where Ex-MP said Hanover divisive intelligence officials can guarantee security. So I imagine they will be able to, because they'll be able to see some stuff on there. Not everything's going to get released to the public necessarily. It can be censored and everything as well. And obviously the Metro leads obviously will see you in court. Government to take its own COVID required judicial Johnson WhatsApp as well. Spiritually related Boris Johnson WhatsApp messages. Now Boris Johnson wants these messages, by the way, sent to the inquiry. Which it makes you wonder. Sometimes you can be on Team Boris on these occasions, but I always think there's a fault with Boris Johnson himself for not even handing over the ones before 2021 in this instance as well. And it doesn't look good for here. And also the Financial Times leads with Labour's accusations of Rishi Sunak and Boris Johnson obstructing the COVID inquiry, obviously on that one. As well, but they also leave with the fact that ECB signals further rates rise despite sharp fall off in Eurozone price surges. This is the fact that the countries inside the European Union don't see interest rates falling as fast as they predicted to be as well. So the fact is that interest rates will probably means we'll have to go up even a bit more than expected to manage inflation rates, which obviously has a long-term impact as well on mortgages, on borrowing, and on savings as well. There's a lot of factors as well on buying housing and renting. This all affects everything as well in the long term, and it becomes more costly as well. Inflations are dropping, but it's not dropping fast enough to be able to manage the economic situation. Food inflation, for example, although it's starting to come down, is still peaked a few months ago, which is obviously huge in terms of people's pay pockets as well. And finally, should have pointed out as well, let's do the Daily Star. Your chippy needs you. Half of our fish and chips shops could go bust by 2025. This is a cost of living crisis as well. Fish and chip shops, the ones that give us our tasty fish and chips as well. Ones that you see on the beachside and the seaside as well, from when on warm nights and days. That sort of gets good food and everything as well. You can help stave off the crisis by shoving just 2 extra portions down your gob and generally claim you are doing it for Britain. I mean, yeah. I do like fish and chips now and then, although we have ours cooked and at home these days, sort of homemade ones rather than sort of fish and chips ones, unfortunately, from previously before. But yeah, come on, Britain, do your thing, get some fish and chips down you. And that is the papers for tomorrow, for the 2nd of June. I imagine there's going to be more during the night as well, and more. I expect more on the fallout of Philip Schofield drama and the Cabinet Office's thing. And we have a mail. We have the mail for. We have the mail.
And I just want to quickly talk about. Obviously, ministers are going to war over COVID. WhatsApp. We've covered that. I just want to quickly mention about this one. I mean, I think a couple of people died today. We lost a couple of people after a horrible accident in Bournemouth Sack, and it was pretty horrible day if you were a Coast Guard and a lifeguard.
I mean, it looks like there was 10 to 20 children went into the beach as well. Went to the sea in Bournemouth Beach, and had difficulties getting out. Unfortunately, 2 of them had serious injuries and then succumbed to their injuries, unfortunately, sadly, afterwards as well. I think there were between 17 to 10 these children that got caught up in this beach. Now, a 40-year-old has been arrested, by the way, on manslaughter allegations. We don't believe from what police are saying that nobody deliberately dropped from say the pier itself and went into that way. It looks like a natural occurrence. It may be a bunch of students that have educated together. The 40-year-old probably didn't instruct himself, has managed to get himself in the situation. Also, being the responsible adult, he's been held responsible for this incident alone as well. And it's obviously a very serious incident that warrants him being arrested on manslaughter charges as well, in many ways. So yeah, it's not a good look for the 40-year-old, but there's still a live investigation going on, and we obviously need to respect that as well, whilst the investigations continue on.
That's a review of the papers, and that is it for the Tonight Show podcast. Thank you for listening on YouTube. I've been my host, Charlie Tars, and Zach Chambers is my co-host. Thanks so much for listening, everyone. Take care, and see you again next time for another episode. Take care, and good night.